Well, there's very few holiday parties where there isn't alcohol served, and that, of course, can lead to tragedy. But a good host does their best to make sure that doesn't happen. Still can, though. Daniel Roncari of Morris Law Group is here to talk about your legal obligations as we head into a New Year's weekend. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
First of all, definition of a social host.
Well, a social host is a person or a group of persons hosting a party but is not looking to profit financially from the party.
Okay, so anybody hosting a party is going to fall under that umbrella. So are there any specific laws? There's vulnerabilities, but is there actual liability here for the host?
It is possible that a social host could be found liable for the actions of their guests. So if somebody leaves their party while drunk, gets behind the wheel, and causes injury to themselves or to someone else, a social host could be found liable. Now in Canada, a social host has never been found liable in the courts, but the recent cases that have developed sort of suggest that it is possible.
Yeah, so it comes down to the circumstances.
Correct.
And so, for example, let's a blatant example where someone is clearly intoxicated and you just let them go at the door.
If somebody is leaving your party and they're clearly intoxicated and you don't take steps to prevent them from driving, it is likely or it's possible that a court could find that social host liable. A lot of it will depend on what type of system they had in place when they were having their party and the degree of their knowledge. But yes, if they know somebody's drunk and leaving their premises and getting behind the wheel of a car, a court would definitely want to see what type of actions they took to prevent that person from driving.
Yeah, so it's pretty much on a case-by-case basis. So, I mean, anyone can litigate here. And,
correct.
Based on these circumstances. So those test cases you mentioned, so it came close.
Well, there is a recent decision where a young man left a party. He was intoxicated. He got into a very bad accident. He was rendered a quadriplegic, and he sued the homeowners, the social hosts. And the lawyers for the social hosts, they brought a motion to the court basically asking the judge to dismiss the action on the basis that a social host has never been found liable. But the judge in that case didn't dismiss the action outright. So that certainly opens the door. Now, it doesn't mean that they will be found liable.
But there's that gray area there.
Absolutely, yes.
At the court's discretion, or judge. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the home itself, walkways or potential hazards in the home, what kind of liability or vulnerabilities are there?
Well, every homeowner has duties under the Occupiers Liability Act to make sure that their home is reasonably safe for people using it. So they need to ensure that there's no hazards on the walkway, that it's safe for people on their homes, and that they've taken steps to ensure the safety of people who are using the premises.
Yeah. So the takeaway here is, I mean, there are steps that we can do.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially if a social host is hosting a party. There are a number of things that they can do to ensure the safety of their guests and also to protect themselves from liability.
Yeah, and of course, have lots of food, non-alcoholic options and Uber options.
Yeah, so it would be a good idea to have a system in place where you, let's say, take the keys from your guests and only return them if you're confident that somebody is able to drive, to provide accommodations to your guests to stay over, to call a taxi or an Uber to make sure they get home safely.
Yeah.
And a good idea would even to have a bartender, particularly one who's trained in smart serve protocols to ensure that their guests are not being overserved alcohol.
Okay, thanks for the expert help. Daniel Roncari is with Morris Law Group, and have a safe, happy New Year.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks for joining us.